A very good afternoon to you everywhere, Watford listeners, wherever you may be, Watford supporters, wherever you may be. Welcome aboard here on this brand new edition of Orns Pre-Match Live, the build-up for Cardiff versus Watford this afternoon in South Wales. This is certainly Ms. Omar. It's great to have you aboard as well. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching. I apologize for any technical difficulties that you might be experiencing here. So bear with me on that. But I just want to tell you, this is really a test about Watford today. Cardiff are the opponent, and that does not mean that Watford should take Cardiff lightly. Cardiff have been excellent so far. They had won 4 consecutive championship games, at least 4. Looked very, very good. And they dropped a game in midweek. But again, Cardiff overall this season have gone off to a decent, solid start. They are 8th in the table at start of play. I know Sunderland and Middlesbrough are really rocking about right now in that weird derby that's going on. And that will be, of course, a barn burner, I'm sure, as it continues. But really today, the test for Watford is Watford. The Watford FC men's first team have a test, and that test is themselves. We have a situation now where the team, having started so well in the first 2 games, they were so good in the first half against Queen's Park Rangers, irresistibly good. And that first half was absolutely brilliant. And then they were sublime throughout the game against Plymouth the very next weekend at the Vic. And that was the best 2 halves of football they've played in a number of years. Both those halves against Plymouth were absolutely brilliant. And then after that, they have just really faded away. And that's the thing that I cannot get my head around as a Watford supporter. Now, look, I've never played professional football. I've played football. I've been on school teams. I've been on Cub Scout teams. I've been on a number of different teams playing sports, football in particular. And we may not have put in the same result every week, but we definitely put in the same performance every week. And we tried and tried and tried. But we've seen this for a number of seasons now, as I've said before, that this team over a number of seasons hasn't given you that effort consistently. There have been times where Watford have been very good. The football actually has been better this season under Val. But the bad habits remain, the same bad habits that we've been trying to get rid of for a number of seasons are creeping back into this club in this men's first team. So, we thought that we'd got rid of the bad eggs, but, there's still a few that are left. And Val Ishmael, I think, is doing a good job at disciplining players and making it very clear to the whole team that this kind of nonsense is not going to be tolerated. These kinds of performances against Sunderland are not going to be tolerated. I love the idea. I love not just the idea, the fact that he kept those players in that dressing room for more than an hour after the end of the match and demanded answers from each and every player individually. That is what you have to do. Hold these players to account, because none of these managers have done that really in any meaningful way previously. And I think the board sent a very important message earlier this week to the rest of the entire men's first team. We are backing this manager. No more of your foolishness. No more of your taking games off. No more of your not playing well because you know the manager is going to get sacked next week at the next international break. Well, this is the last game before the international break, the second one of the season. And this manager's not going anywhere, not in the foreseeable future. The contract was extended. I have not seen any details released about how long that's been extended for. But what we all know as Watford supporters is that this man is not leaving the club at the end of the season. He is going to be here at least for the beginning of next season. So if these players are interested in playing football, they had better start to get their behinds in gear and start playing football the way that we know they're capable of. And I'm expecting today a robust response to the challenges and the criticisms that these players have received. I've been amongst them, who has criticized them lately because they have not been good in a load of these games. Now, they did beat Birmingham, but and they showed character in the game against Middlesbrough despite the defeat. They showed character in the game against West Bromwich Albion to get back and get that level. But Watford have to be better in terms of their approach. They've got to work for each other as a team. They have to do the things in football that are fundamental. And I think one of the reasons why Watford have struggled is that they have run away from the footballing fundamentals. We've seen this in several seasons, but you've got to do the basic fundamental things in football and make football simple again. You have to make football simple. And these players have not done that lately, and they are not fighting for each other hard enough on the pitch. I think that that's a problem. Lack of discipline. I've talked about that all season long. I'm a broken record on that. Game management situations, I've made a broken record on that as well. This has been back beyond this season. We saw it a million times last season, particularly that game against Burnley last season, away from home in the 95th minute. You are literally seconds away from that whistle blowing for a famous victory at Turf Moor, and you could not get the job done there. So, we've seen this over and over again, and these away games are critical now for Watford because I think that to regain confidence, because they've clearly lost that, they have to start playing better away from home. And today they may as well start against a Cardiff side who are very good. So, to that end, this is the lineup that Val put out. The lineup came out just over 10 minutes ago now. And welcome aboard if you're watching here on Orns Pre-Match Live. I'm Omar. Great to see you here. You are here as well. Thank you, Watford supporters, for watching this and taking note as we get ready for the build-up here for Cardiff versus Watford. Should be an entertaining match. I expect a lot more from Watford. I want Watford to trouble the goalkeeper for Cardiff. I want Watford to trouble that defensive line for Cardiff. I want Watford to put in some crosses in that box. I want Watford to not think so hard about their football. Just play the football. Play the football you're capable of. Get out there and play, and don't hesitate. When you've got a shot on, take the shot. Even if it does go over the bar, take a shot. Take a shot. Trouble this defensive line you're going to be playing. Cardiff have got some big bodies in that center defensive pairing, but so what? Go at them, trouble the goalkeeper. Make the goalkeeper save the ball. I mean, really, save the shots. You've got to make these goalkeepers work. We've not done that enough so far this season. And so we've conceded a lot of goals lately, 8 in the last 3 games, 13 in the last 6. Those are the things you'd be concerned about from a defensive standpoint for Watford. Obviously, it's not just the back four. It is really a team-wide approach to defending that has lacked. So let me give you this lineup that Val put out just almost 15 minutes ago now. Here is what Val has done for the starting 11 for your Watford Golden Boys. Backman in goal, of course. The captain, Ngakia, starts at right back. And we know why. Ryan Andrews, 3-match ban. So that was not going to be a surprise. Ngakia did not have a great game on Wednesday. I expect he will bounce back in this game today against Cardiff. So Ngakia starts at right back. Ryan Andrews, 3-match ban. I was telling people I don't know why people on Twitter were saying, some people, a few, were saying, oh, that's never a red card. Well, it clearly was. We all know that. And I guaranteed that he would be getting a 3-match ban. It would not be a rescinded situation. And the card, of course, is not rescinded. That red card was deserved. It was a reckless challenge. Ryan Andrews now has 3 games to learn from that mistake. As a young player, he won't make that mistake again. I'm pretty darn confident of that. So Ngakia starts at right back. You've got the same defensive back four. Hoot is in there. Porteous, by the way, is actually on the bench. So it's going to be Sierralta. Looks to me like Sierralta is going to be joining that back four. And it's going to be Sierralta and Hoot together in that back four. Ryan Porteous drops to the bench. Now, personally, I would have dropped Hoot to the bench and left Porteous to stick in there with Sierralta. But what it looks like to me is that Sierralta is going to be in that back four. And that's what I have called for a long time. A number of other Watford supporters, we've called for this, to have Sierralta back in that back four where he belongs, that central defensive pairing at centre back. That's where Sierralta belongs. I think at times has been good where he was before in that central defensive midfield. I thought at times he was good, but a lot of times for me, Sierralta got lost in there, and I didn't really see his function. So I am delighted to see that what it looks like right now is Sierralta is going into that back four with Hoot as a central defensive pairing. Okay, I would have preferred Hoot. I would have preferred Sierralta and Porteous. But what's happened here now is that the manager has dropped Porteous to the bench. So what you've got is two big central defensive players in that center back pairing. Let's see how that works, right? And what's happened in terms of your midfield is that you've got Jake Livermore occupying that sixth position where Sierralta was. And so Livermore is going to occupy that position. He starts. And then what you're going to have is Deli Bashiru and Asprilla in your midfield. Those are the two guys who are going to be working your midfield. And then, of course, up front, you've got the return of Matthias Martins. Welcome back, Matthias. Again, my profound condolences, my heartfelt condolences to you and your family on your loss. And so Martins is back after missing the game due to bereavement on Wednesday. So Martins will be on the left-hand side. On your right-hand side, I'm sorry, I missed out Kayembe. Kayembe is going to be working in that midfield as well. So what's going to happen is you're going to have Kayembe, you're going to have the likes of Livermore and TDB. That's probably going to be your midfield, and then Asprilla will be more the attacking midfield there, perhaps. And then what you're going to have in terms of going forward is going to be Bio in the middle, and then you're going to have your right-sided players, whether it is Asprilla making that right-handed option, and then on your left side, you're going to have Martin. So that's probably what it looks like. Looks like it's going to put Asprilla on the right, Bio in the middle, and then on the left side, it's going to be Martins, and then your midfield, as part of what's going to be clearly a 4-3-3, is going to be Livermore, and it's going to be Deli Bashiru and Kayembe. That's who your midfield three is going to be. So it's going to be a 4-3-3. Sierralta's dropping into that center back pairing with Wesley Hoot. Porteous occupies the bench. And I didn't mention Jamal Lewis, who will be your left back today, of course. No surprise there. Lewis had a good first half last time out, not a great second half. Quality corners were not good from Lewis. Very poor corner I saw there in the second half against Sunderland. But I'm sure he'll repair that, clean that up, and be better today. So I am looking for a much more spirited Watford today, a Watford that will just be unrestrained. And I think that Watford will play better. And that's the challenge today. I'm not, whether they win, lose, or draw, quite frankly, I mean, yes, we've lost 3 in a row, but whether we win, lose, or draw this match is actually less of a concern for me personally. I mean, me as a Watford supporter personally, yes, I'd love for them to get the win, and I would much rather them win the game. But really what I'd like to see today is a return to the kind of football that we saw the first 2 games of this season. If Watford can at least do that today, that for me will make me happy, even if they got a loss. So, Cardiff are good. Cardiff are dangerous. Watford have to be on their P's and Q's. And Watford have really themselves to battle today because a lot of the mistakes that have been made have led to the goals or have cost us goals. And so Watford FC today, this men's first team, is going to have to stop shooting itself in the foot. And I think that if Watford can actually avoid that, they will have a chance today against Cardiff. Watford's position in the table, yeah, that's a concern. Again, it's 10 games in. It's not good. This is usually the point, 10 games in, where you start to look at the table. And Watford are 19th at the minute. So not good reading for you. 21st, pardon me. Watford are 21st at the minute. Not good reading from a Watford fan perspective. But again, I think that if Watford get to game 20 or game 23, which is the halfway point, game 23 of the season, and they are still in the bottom 4, yes, I will start to say this is a relegation fight. But right now, 10 games in, I'm not going there with a relegation fight. Way too early still. way too early. If it gets to Christmas and they're still in that position, I will then start to have a very different view from where I am now. But it's way too early, even after 10 games, to be going relegation scrap. But some Watford fans have done that. They're not happy, understandably. I am among them, not happy, but I'm not going to go there yet with any talk of a relegation scrap after 10 games. Just not enough of a sample size for me. When we get to the halfway point of the season, if it's still the same, I will then start to voice my concerns about that in terms of a relegation situation. But Watford today, I think, look, they need to strengthen the squad. We know that. The squad's very thin. January is going to be a very important time, but today is a very important time. The last game before the international break, you want to go into the international break on a high. You do not want to go into the international break having lost a game, because that means you've got 2 weeks and 2 weeks to dwell, 2 weeks where a lot of your teammates are going to be out on international duty. So there's no cohesion there, no opportunity for you to start to build those blocks again. So you want to go into this all-star break. I always say this. I keep getting my metaphors mixed up with sports because I'm thinking about baseball. Of course, there is playoffs in baseball. Postseason really gets underway today here in the United States. So I've got to really switch back to talking about football and the EFL and the team that you and I love, Watford Football Club. This men's first team have got to get back to the basics of football for me. By the way, let me get to this the substitutes bench. And Ben Hamer is your goalkeeper on the subs bench. Porteous, as I've said earlier, drops to the bench for the first time this season in the championship. I think for the first time this season at all. Tom Ince on the bench as well. Rajovic on the bench also, which is where I think he should be for the time being, Rajovic. Loser, who has been awful these last 3 games. I'm glad that he was benched. It's the right move for the manager to make. I think Loser has been a real anchor to these problems. His disciplinary issues, I think he needs to take a seat on the bench, watch Coolest Jets, and see where we go from there. So Loser on the bench today, a good move from Val, and Kone on the bench as well. Healy on the bench as well. I like that idea, although I hope that Healy gets introduced earlier than he has. Healy, who I thought would not come back until maybe later in this month, came back on the last day of September, just a few days ago, made a few minutes of an appearance, came into the game on Wednesday. And again, he hasn't had enough time to really make an impact. But he is back on the bench. Check for Thursday, Georgie, who I thought was poor on Wednesday, also on the bench, back to where he is usually. And James Morris, there has been a James Morris sighting. James Morris returns to the bench. Now, look, I was not aware of any injuries for James Morris. I know he's probably split time back in the under 23s in the academy and all the rest of it. But he's back on the bench now. Again, James Morris has fallen out of favor. And Jay Larkin, J29. Well done there, Larkin, J29. I hope you enjoy the game today. Let's hope that Watford get the victory today. James Morris, there has been a James Morris sighting. We'll see. James Morris, who I thought was very good in this time last season, and I thought he was very good at Watford in that first team, very serviceable, looked like a real professional out there. But this season, after the first game, which I thought he was very good in, and pretty decent in the game against Plymouth, has fallen by the wayside dramatically. And for me, it all started with the game at Stoke, the first away game of the season, where he decided to not pass the ball and go for goal himself. When you got Bio in the middle of the box and you can't pass to him, and Bio just gave him what for in that issue and that situation. And since that time, you had not seen Morris start in these games at all, except for maybe one time where he started, was ineffective then, and then was back on the bench, and then, in fact, altogether not in the squad. So I think Val's making it very clear that he's not happy with the way Morris is playing at the minute. But Morris is back on the bench now, and I hope that he can regain some confidence. I want to see all these Watford players do well. When I criticize these players, I don't love to criticize Watford Football Club players. I don't love to criticize these male players. I don't like to criticize the female players either. When the players aren't pulling their weight, when they're not performing well, you're going to get the criticisms. When you're playing well and when you're doing a good job for the team, you're going to get the praise. That's just the way this world works. That's just the way human beings work. And some of the fan base you may not agree with what some of the fan base says about the players. I certainly don't agree with, and I don't approve of attacking any of these players personally. Personal attacks, no. If you're going to attack or criticize their professionalism, absolutely. On the pitch as footballers, absolutely. Their players, footballers, absolutely. That is well within bounds. But personal attacks and all that kind of nonsense, attacks, anything personal on their families or on the players themselves personally, not on. None of that is warranted or justified and is not condoned here. I will say that right now. In terms of criticisms about the style of play or the way these players are playing or the effort they're giving, that is absolutely reasonable. That is absolutely within bounds. Absolutely within bounds. It's well warranted. Well warranted. This team's not been good enough these last 3 games. Lost 3 in a row. They've conceded 8 goals in the last 3 games, and they've conceded 13 in the last 6. Not good enough. It's just not good enough. Passages of play not good enough. So, look, I've gone through that a million times here. And we all are very clear now. You've heard lots of Watford fans on social media voice their disapproval. And the fact of the matter is that, look, it's good to see Luther Blissett in his position, and he's going to talk about Watford from a more broader point of view. I understand that. Luther Blissett's a statesman. The other thing is to consider, though, is that this particular team right here is not performing the way that they should be performing. You cannot explain to me how a team drops off so much suddenly after 2 really good performances, suddenly drops off for the next 7 or 8 games with 1 win out of those 8 games. They won the first game of the season, drew the second, were unlucky not to win that game against Plymouth. And then since then, they've won 1 of their last 8. That's something to be concerned about. And that criticism of the team is definitely warranted. Loser, disciplinary issues off the pitch. Ben Hamer, disciplinary issues off the pitch. That is a worry. And that for me carries into the way these lads are playing on the pitch. Ryan Andrews, obviously frustrated, but that's no excuse to go in with a reckless challenge. But Ryan Andrews has been the brightest spark we've had this season. Should the fans not say anything about this? The fans are absolutely justified in having a go at these lads when they're not performing, and having a go at them when they're not performing doesn't mean that we don't support them. We love these lads. That's unquestionable. We love these lads. We want the best for them, which is why we're criticizing them when they're not playing well. If we didn't care, we wouldn't even bother criticizing them. We'd just ignore them. So that's where I go with that. But look, I hope, like Larkin J29 does, that we can get an away win. Hopefully we can, says Larkin J29. We've only had 1 this year. Yeah, absolutely. And guess when that was? All the way back on January 2nd of this year against none other than Norwich City. That's right. Can you name the goal scorer in that game? That's the real key. But anyway, don't look at your Googles. And there, Larkin J29 has just said that he was at that game. So it was a long time ago, mate. That was 9 months ago. More than 9. Absolutely was. Yep. Since Larkin J29, you were there. A bio tap in. That's exactly right. Tap in at the left side of the goal, I think it was, if I remember correctly. Saw running down the line. Absolutely. Saw crossed that ball over, passed the ball over. It was a good pass across. And that's right. Bio, pardon me, ran in and tapped it in from the left side. And that was it. Absolutely right. Larkin J29 was at the game at Carrow Road back on January 2nd. A long time ago now when you think about football, because that was last season, but it was inside this calendar year. that Watford got that win. Let's hope that we can get one today in South Wales against Cardiff City. The Bluebirds against the Hornets coming up half an hour from right now at the top of the hour. Thank you very much indeed, everyone, for watching. Larkin J29, thank you for your contributions as well. Of course, really good to see you contributing here on Orns pre-match live. Cheers, mate. Cheers, Larkin J29, and to everyone who has watched this live stream either in real time or later on. Thank you for your time. Don't forget, there will be a Orns Twitter space directly after this game, and then half an hour after the game, go to Orns WFC on Instagram for Orns Extra on Instagram Live. Please subscribe to this very channel that you are watching, the Orns WFC YouTube channel, and like and subscribe to the videos. Thank you so much indeed. Let's go get this win today. Watford today, please. Golden Boys, you've got to perform better today. Believe in yourselves. Believe in each other as a team. Trust each other. And let's get that win. Come on, you Orns. Come on. From me, Omar, be well, take care, and have a good day. And let's go and get a win today at Cardiff. Take care, everybody, and enjoy the game.